Okay, I think it's going. All right. So we're going to talk a little bit about what to expect in the study and why I started this study back in 2018, because I think it's cool to recognize what God has done over the years and the cool things that He's doing. So you have a book in your hand, and those are a gift from Launch. Those don't cost anything to you. You've got a bookmark in there that tells you all the dates of our small groups and all the dates that will be out in large group, where we have like a speaker and stay outside, not come down in here. And so you can look and see what chapters coincide with each topic. Sometimes we have a group of chapters that are kind of an overarching theme that the speaker's going to touch on, and then other times it's going to be one particular topic. Some of the speakers are going to go over the chapter in detail. Others are going to not even really talk about the chapter. So if you don't read the book, you're going to definitely be missing out. Some people like to just read the book quickly and not wait on the classes. Some people like to read the chapter after we meet and the speaker talks about it. So that's up to you guys, whatever works for you guys. That is a really loud cricket. He's going to try to speak over all of this. If you guys did not read the description of the small group, this is not a deep theological study. This is a life skills course based on biblical principles. The author that wrote this book, Erica, she worked with campus ministries at Penn State to be able to gather all this information and write this book. She's currently working on a new book that's supposed to be out in the spring. And it's kind of cool because she let all of our previous Launch small groups give input into her new book. So that's really neat. Let's see. The other book that I recommend that you guys read on your own, is called The Defining Decade: Why Your 20s Matter and How to Make the Most of Them. I want to preface, this is not a Christian book. It is not written from a Christian perspective. So if there's biblical things that don't line up with the Bible in there, I'm not condoning that or suggesting that. But I only found one thing that didn't really line up with the Bible. But it's written by a psychiatrist that is a specialist in people your age. And she just has some really good tips in life, and I really encourage you to read it. You're going to have some homework each week. I shared a Google Doc with the majority of you. Please make a copy of that before you start making edits in there. You can take notes during class. You can use it to journal. However you want to use it is up to you. Each chapter is in red, so you'll be able to easily scan through and find where the speaker that night is at. And all your homework is in blue. And so you'll be able to find that easily. I also want to remind people to respect the fact that we usually have some people in our group that this information is new. And other people, someone in your life has taught all these items to you, but now it's time to apply them. And so respect what others have as far as their experience. You're only going to get out of it what you put into it. Daniela's going to be talking about this more, but this is the time to start really digging into your personal quiet time with the Lord. Up until this point, our small groups have kind of like spoon-fed you, and that's not really how life works after college. And so you should never rely on Launch or your church to be that deep spiritual feeding. That should just be icing on the cake. And so spending that time with the Lord in your quiet time, digging in. Our alumni always tell us that the great thing about Launch is it's a great community to grow in your faith. And the bad thing about Launch is it doesn't exist after college. And so now's the time to kind of start making that transition. Some ways to grow deeper: if you look at the back of each chapter, she's got all these verses and things in here for you. And so you can go through and read the verses that she's based the chapter off of. But don't just read the verses, read the whole chapter so you get the context. I went to a study at Calvary one time, and it said you never get an email and just read a couple of sentences in the middle and don't even look who the email's from. Like, that would be absurd. But how many times do we go to the Bible and just read a couple of verses, but we don't know who wrote it, why they wrote it, what the context was? And so you can get the context more if you're reading it. You can also use BibleHub.com for commentaries. I like to use that a lot. Or you can use some of Ben's commentaries up in the library, but we just ask that you don't take them out of the actual building. There's questions at the end of each chapter for you to walk through and pray through and ask God to show you what maybe your strengths and your weaknesses are. Throughout the chapter, all the stories are about real life people. And so think about, how would I have handled this situation? What would I have done? And if you don't already have safeguards in your life to help you to not struggle as much with the things that your weaknesses are, now's the time to get those in place if you don't already have them, because senior year is hard. And Satan is going to come at you hard because he wants to derail you. You are making big decisions that are going to impact the rest of your life, and so make sure you have those safeguards in place. For those that went through the freshman study, the book that Ben uses by Ben Stewart, I went to one of his seminars one time, and so my mentees, you've heard this a million times, but put barbed wire in place in your life to keep yourself from falling off the cliff of sin. And barbed wire is made up of things like your mentor, your accountability partner, the Holy Spirit. If you've already committed your life to Jesus, then you have the Holy Spirit living in your life, guiding you. And so if you don't have those things in place, put them in place. And metaphorically, when the Holy Spirit or like your accountability partner, whoever, calls you out, metaphorically that barbed wire is going to hurt as it rips through your skin, but it's going to keep you from falling off that cliff into sin as bad as it could be. I encourage you to use what you learn in this class to be able to have conversations with other people that are your peers that are going through similar things. Use it to invite them here. Except for Eric and David and Hank, can everybody see the group me that I added you into? Is there anybody that cannot see it? All right, I promise I will add you guys in. All right, that's how we're going to communicate. If you have a prayer request, put it in there. If you have a job interview coming up, put it in there. Last year we had somebody get a job right off the bat, and it was just like we were so pumped for her and celebrated. So keep us in the loop on those things, the good and the bad stuff. I want to share real quick about why I started this group. So several years ago, we just noticed that a lot of our graduates were not adjusting well. We had one girl that tried to kill herself. We had one guy that had a complete meltdown. And these are leaders. These were leaders in our ministry. And we realized that although we do a lot to help freshmen transition into college, we were really not doing a whole lot to help people transition out of college unless they were going through pre-engagement counseling or premarital counseling with Ben and I. And so I knew I couldn't fix it, but I knew we could do better. And so God kind of took me on this year-long exploration of trying to figure out what is being done out there by other people, other entities, that's helping seniors adjust. And what I discovered was it did not matter where a person grew up or how they grew up, whether they were rich or poor, whether they had their dream job or they worked at Starbucks after college, whether they were a leader in our ministry or they just were passing through. The people graduating out were all struggling with some of the same things. And so that's when God led me to Erica's seminar, and she helped me put this group together along with some of our alumni and other professionals here in the community. And so I'm just excited to see what God's going to do this year. And I'm excited to hear what Daniela has to say, because she got to teach one time when she was just in town for that particular day, but now she's in the lineup, the official lineup. So take it away.
I was just thinking back though, like I'm so old and I've been around long enough that I was at that seminar with you.
Yeah, which is ironic.
Yeah. Crazy.
Yeah.
It was a good seminar.
It was.
So you already know my name. Just giving you a little bit of context how I even show up here. Obviously I went to Purdue, like that's how I got connected with Launch. But even before I moved to Purdue, it'd be a long story, but the people who picked me up at the airport, when I first came for my campus visit after I had an offer for the PhD thing, were the best. With much younger Michaela and much younger Brianna, And I felt like I didn't like have a choice but to come to Purdue. Like they were like, okay, here's a shirt, like you're coming. It wasn't that brutal, but I'm so glad. Yeah, I'm so glad that they did that, and it was definitely an awesome time. And through the time that I was here, there was not necessarily like an intern program, but somehow they made me an intern. I was an international student, so I couldn't even really like be paid. So there's a lot of things that happen, and it's such a blessing to see the things that are happening today that are a product not just of what was going on like at that time, but of all the people who came before us. And I think that that's something that I hope that you'll appreciate in your life, that like where you are right now is really a product of a lot of choices, many choices that you've made over the years. You know, like I was just talking to T-Wall as I walked in, like the ping pong table is gone. And one is on the in the ceiling, which was there when I moved here. And there was a story how that ended up there. And there's a story as to why there's not one here now. And there's somebody that hopefully doesn't have no permanent injuries from it. But you know, there's always a story. There's something, and it's good to remember those things, even the ones that hurt. So yeah, like after that, I did my PhD here, went away, was a professor out in Georgia for a few years, and then Purdue called me this summer and offered me a job. It would be a long story, but you don't say no to Purdue offering you a job when your husband is from Michigan. So, you know, here we are. I'm very, very thankful, and we are now leading the grad study here, and it's sort of like a dream come true to see it come. I don't know if it's full circle, but it's certainly some kind of circle like that. I'm still figuring out the categories. Tonight we're going to talk about this idea of going into the unknown. And we're going to talk about a Bible passage for a little bit. Like Nettie said, it's very hands-on, like very much not like a deep theological dive into the passage, but there is wisdom to be found in the Bible, and I think that if we're going to have a discussion, it's good to guide it in that way. So, yeah, that's where we're going to go. But before we delve into our passage, I kind of wanted to put the question out there. You are about to graduate, right? Hopefully, unless you do terribly in your classes. Please don't. But like new fear unlocked. It's normally fine. You're about to graduate. What are you looking forward to the most? And maybe like what are some things that you know now that are giving you a little bit of anxiety about this process of moving? So find somebody that's like next to you and talk first there, and then we'll talk as a group, like just for quick minute. So what are you looking forward to? What are you anxious about? Or apprehensive, or wondering?
Just a couple years.
I mean, yeah. I have a couple of years. I have this year, next year,
And then it's clinicals.
yeah, and then I'm out here pretty much. I'm excited for that. Definitely, all my days here, it's great. It's wonderful. There's so much positive about it. But also, I've been here for a couple of years. We've been here for a couple of years. It started